Hey everybody, this is Andrea Jenson from the Cash Flow CFO, and you're listening to the Cash Flow CFO Podcast, the show that explores the financial side of running a business for people who want to maximize profitability and scale with confidence. If you want to make smart financial decisions based on data and put more of your hard-earned profits into your pocket, this is the podcast for you. This episode of the Cash Flow CFO podcast is brought to you by the Cash Flow CFO. Did you know that on average, business owners have up to 84% of their personal net worth tied up in their business? Our virtual CPAs and CFOs, as well as accounting and bookkeeping experts, empower business owners just like you to make big leaps that help them maximize profitability and scale with confidence. Visit thecashflowcfo.com for more information, and thank you for listening. Hey everyone, it's Andrea, and our guest for today is Jean Kristensen. Jean is the CEO and Chief Consultant at JKA Solutions, where they connect women and minority businesses to government and large corporation opportunities. Jean's journey in the supplier diversity space is underpinned by a foundational education in organizational leadership from Fordham University, and as the CEO and Chief Consultant of JKA Solutions, she utilizes this background to drive impactful change and growth for small, diverse businesses. Under Jean's leadership, JKA Solutions is dedicated to empowering these businesses through supplier diversity outreach, consulting, training, development, and administrative and support services. And Jean's personal success story of transforming a family-run security guard company from a small team to a thriving enterprise with over 500 employees and $15 million in revenue exemplifies the transformative power of supplier diversity. I'm excited to dive into that, Jean, and learn more about that in just a little bit. And that experience has fueled her commitment to facilitating similar opportunities for others, leading to recognitions such as the MWBE Power 50 by city and state in May 2021, the Equity and Inclusive Opportunity Award by the Greater New Haven Chamber of Commerce in 2020, and inclusion into the Inc. 5000 list of the fastest growing companies in 2024. Congratulations. As an advocate for a strategic approach to supplier diversity, Jean has significantly contributed to the field through initiatives like founding the Supplier Diversity Resource Group and her forthcoming book, Diversify and Prosper. Her vision extends to utilizing supplier diversity as a tool for addressing health disparities in underserved communities, emphasizing the need for innovative and accessible solutions. Jean's impact extends beyond her consultancy, notably through her role as co-chair of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee at the Greater New Haven Chamber of Commerce. Here she leads the efforts to connect local and diverse suppliers with major institutions, fostering an environment of growth and inclusion. Jean's holistic approach to success, which integrates her role as a certified health coach, emphasizes the importance of well-being for professionals and business owners alike while advocating for a balance between work and wellness. Welcome to the show, Jean.
I am so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining me. I know that intro was a bit of a mouthful, right? And for our listeners, there was a lot there. But I think it's so important because what I love about where you're at, Jean, in your career is you're bridging two, very different experiences that you've had, right, professionally, as far as running your own business, seeing the power of what is available to women or minority-owned businesses by being that connector between the government agencies who are looking for these types of suppliers and, or corporations that are looking for these types of suppliers. So I'm excited to dive into all of that really, really juicy info there. But before I do, I'd love to say welcome. And I'd love to know a little bit about how did you get started, with the security company, and how did you get from there to where you are now in your career?
Yeah, so I'm excited to dive in, and I have so much great information to share. Part of my journey is making sure that, local communities and minority and women owned businesses understand about the various opportunities that are available through government agencies and large corporations. So I'm excited to kind of talk about that today. But my journey began, both of my parents are immigrants, right? My mom is from Denmark, my dad is from Haiti. They came over to this country at a time when, just before, like I was born just before the civil rights movement was signed. And I know I'm not saying this correctly, but I want to just emphasize that it's this melting pot, right, of people that are coming from different backgrounds, different communities, and then us, in the United States at a period of time. I was born in the 60s, where there was this great dichotomy between different groups, right? And so, when I think about my journey, my parents, again, both immigrants, and you hear this all the time, people coming to the United States with different backgrounds, right? But what they did in their own countries are not applicable here. And so, they're doing what they have to do to get their citizenship and to raise a family. And so as a result of that, my parents' journey, I'm going to say, was enormously difficult. Thankfully, they made it through, but it was wrought with challenges. And so fast forward to when my dad opened a security guard company, we started hearing about the federal government's interest in working with small businesses. We started hearing about programs that were looking to empower minority and women-owned businesses. And so my background is in marketing and finance. So the first, when my dad and I had a great job at Thompson Financial Services, I was like, have fun, Dad, with this entrepreneurship thing. I'm not interested. I want my office. I want, all the bells and whistles that come with it. But I just couldn't ignore the calling to help my family and the opportunities that I saw. So I focused on learning about government procurement, learning about the opportunities that were available for minority and women-owned businesses. And as a result, and I don't want to make it sound quick, I don't want to make it sound easy, but we were able to gain access to many lucrative government contracts and many contracts in the private sector that propelled us from a small family-run business to one of the largest companies, largest minority women-owned security companies at the time that we were running the business. And that really changed my life. It changed the life of our family, and it changed the lives of the people who came to work with us, because a lot of the people who ended up working in the security industry were also representative of underserved communities.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So, I mean, just what an amazing, experience that must have been for your parents, especially, right? To come here, start from scratch and be able to be resourceful enough to find these opportunities that would help them. Those are monumental jumps for someone to build a business that size, in one career, not, multiple generations of somebody doing that. So that in itself is just so, it just makes my heart so happy to hear that. But then for you to be like in the front row seat, you're working corporate, right? You're like, I want the safe, the career path of a corporate role. And that's where you were at. And you had the front row seat to watching this growth just happen. And, tell me about that and kind of what was the thing that really pulled you into working for the family business?
Well, I'm the oldest of 5. So my role in the family has always been, it's interesting because when you're the oldest of 5, and I'm sure I'm talking to all the older kids out there, that you generally become an extension of your parents. You'll see this big difference between the older child and the younger child. So I think just part of me wanting to take care of my other family members was a big part of it. But I started spending a lot of time with my dad, asking him, why are you doing this? Because it was long hours and, a tremendous amount of sacrifice. And he was always looking ahead. He was always looking at the generations. Like, he's like, look, I'm good. But I'm doing this for you guys and for the kids that are coming behind you, for my grandchildren. And so I started to get a sense of that it was just bigger than me. And I got a tremendous amount of enjoyment. I mean, when you realize the impact that having one of these contracts can have, you really, I think our first big contract, we hired 100 people.
Wow.
And that's going from 5 to 100 almost overnight.
Wow.
And so the reason, that I, like you said, have this front row seat is because I got to see the good part of that, but I also got to see behind the scenes what the challenges are. And so that's why I'm here today. And that's actually one of the main reasons why, I'm excited to talk to you, is because there are so many things that have to happen in order for this to really work well, not just for a company like mine, because we learned a lot of hard lessons along the way. We were not prepared. We were just like, oh, let's go get these government contracts. And then there's so many things, again, that you have to prepare for and learn in order to be successful in the space.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. A contract of that size could break a business, could absolutely ruin a business if, number one, like, there's two ways you can go, right? You can listen to, a company like yours who can consult and help you set up all the back end office things that you're going to need and all of the solutions, or you can just be really scrappy, like, I just imagine your dad just being like, we'll figure it out, and just going for it, which I just admire. And I love that. That's the true entrepreneurial spirit, right? But I bet the second time he got a contract, he did it very different, right? You guys had your ducks in a row and it wasn't as stressful, going from that big of a jump of having to have a lot of employees to manage, for sure.
Well, what's interesting is, and I always talk about the difference between men and women, when we go after. So I'm so glad that I had this mentorship, because I remember being in these rooms where, somebody would say to my dad, like, okay, are you ready for it? He would not hesitate. He would say, yes. And exactly that, I'll figure it out. Yep. And I'm not going to date myself, but I want you to know there was no internet. Okay. There was no virtual back office. I mean, we were stuffing payroll envelopes with cash. All right. Back then. All right. So it was a completely different world than where we are today. Mm-hmm. And what I will say, if I had to, and I've also now, I ended up, selling that company, to now have the company that I have today. And even my first contract, when I started this business, was $30,000. And I remember just thinking, wow, if I could only get to 100,000, I would be okay. Even with the experience that I had of running a very big company, I did not understand the financial metrics that I really needed to pay attention to in order to not just grow the company, because, early days, I was very focused on revenue. That sounds sexy when you can say, oh, wow, I've got 100 employees and I'm running a multi-7-figure business. But the truth is, back then, we were running a multi-7-figure business, but at a very low profit margin, because industries like security and janitorial and some of those others, and, it wasn't on my radar that, this was something, especially with my first contract, that I needed to be intentional about setting a goal, not just for the revenue, but for the profitability of the business, the profitability and the cash flow of the business as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So I think we've set the stage a little bit of what's possible, right? What's out there. What else are you seeing? And then I think let's talk a little bit about opportunities right now, and then we can talk about how to take advantage of some of those opportunities, how to throw your hat in the ring, right? So that you're even able to bid those opportunities or that work. I know you work a lot with women and minority-owned businesses. What are you seeing, just kind of as a general, what's happening right now, opportunities for those types of businesses?
Well, I will tell you that I was doing some research on LinkedIn over the weekend for Black History Month, and just to kind of give people an understanding of why I do what I do. McKinsey just published a report that said it will take many Black people over 300 years to close the wealth gap. All right, in certain areas. And so one of the things, so that's something that is top of mind for me when I think about the work that I'm doing and the connections that I can make. And this is, I could share details about like the disparity for women. I think women are still making, 86 cents for every dollar a man makes. And so those disparities have a tremendous impact on the community. Because for all the reasons that we already know. And so my focus on government contracts with large corporations, contracts that are available through a number of resources. Just to give you some examples, the federal government has a budget of over $80 billion for IT services alone. Okay. I'm working with groups like the $1 Billion Roundtable. If you look at what the $1 Billion Roundtable is, a group of corporations that spend $1 billion with diverse suppliers every single year. So it includes some of the big names that you might know, right? Apple and Google and those companies. And so there is enormous opportunities. You've heard, President Biden talk about, we just saw that there's, all this money and infrastructure that's coming in the pipeline. And so in all of these instances, many corporations are intentional about earmarking some of those opportunities for local community members. So you don't have to be a minority to get access to this. I'm talking, you could be a local small business. There's parts of contracts in the private sector as well as in the public sector that are earmarked for women, local businesses, minorities, and the list goes on. So the reason I'm really focused on this, and I speak from my personal experience, because if I had to rely on my job, and there's nothing wrong with having a job, but if I had to rely on my job in order to close the wealth gap for myself as a woman, as a minority, it wasn't going to happen. And I think that's true for a lot of others. And so the access to opportunities that are available right now is greater than I've ever seen in my lifetime. Let me be clear. It is not, easy. It's like, oh, check a box. I'm a woman. So here's all my opportunities. No, but there's a lot of interest in working with diverse companies out there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think, and that's a great segue into the second part of the conversation I wanted to have with you. Start scaling with confidence today. The Cash Flow CFO is a full service accounting and fractional CFO firm. So it goes without saying that our financial experts are phenomenal at number crunching. But more than that, they are expert communicators who will connect all those complicated financial dots in a way that just makes sense. We don't wait in the wings and check in every so often either. With our boutique approach, we position ourselves front and center, watching over every dollar that comes in and out of your business as if it was our own. So if your business is making money and you're ready to take it to the next level, but you're not sure you completely understand your numbers, and you're looking for that trusted guide to help you build a roadmap to reach your financial goals, it sounds like we would be a great fit. Visit thecashflowcfo.com and let's get started empowering you to build and scale your business the way you want to today. What are some of the things that these businesses can be doing right now to help them prepare to, get some of this work, the opportunity to bid on the work, or to have a company structure that will be awarded these types of contracts that are out there right now?
So the first thing, if I had to even coach myself, because I've been in business over 40 years, the one thing I would say to myself is, number one, think bigger, because, a lot of us are limited by what we can see for ourselves. As a woman-owned business, my big goal for myself was to make $100,000. not even thinking, not knowing that management consulting firms, the average revenue for a well-established management consulting firm is between 3 and 5 million. So here I was thinking, oh, if I could just make 100 grand. So step number 1 is think bigger. Mm-hmm. Step number 2 is to be intentional. Because if you say, all right, I'm going to set the bar, I want to get my company to $10 million, automatically you have to start thinking, wow, this is bigger than me. And you have to surround yourself with people who are going to pull you into that $10 million arena. Mm-hmm. And so one of the big things is making sure that you have the right foundation for your business. So instead of kind of bootstrapping it, because that's what everybody tells you to do, oh, bootstrap it. And no, it does not have to be that difficult. Mm-hmm. Granted, there's sweat equity that needs to go in. But I would recommend, again, identifying foundational resources that are going to establish you as a leader in your space, starting with the financial health of your business. Mm-hmm. Because right there, when you make a decision, I'm going to create a company that's $1 million, or I'm going to create a company that's $10 million. I want to have real impact. You know that this is bigger than you and that you're going to need to have the right people in place. Mm-hmm. The foundation of your business is twofold. Obviously, I think, everybody on this in your audience knows that providing excellent service is top of mind, right? You have to market your business. But if you're looking to gain access to government contracts, if you're looking to gain access to doing business with corporate, you have to understand how they work. And corporations and government agencies, they are risk averse. They are not, you could even be $1 million company, but if your house is not in order, they're not going to do business with you. Mm-hmm. The other big thing is you need money. And so a lot of us, have been taught, have been trained, almost, it's like, everywhere you turn, they talk about lack of access to capital and you should bootstrap. No, you should build a plan that will allow you to get the capital that you need. Mm-hmm. And this is how I see large corporations work. This is how I see well-established businesses work. They have a financial advisor. They have, a company like yours where they're sitting down and they are being strategic about where they want to go over the next several years. Even if the beginning of the relationship, of the entrepreneur is that, all right, I don't have a lot of resources, mm-hmm. but there is the planning involved.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, just from what we see, the clients that we work with that are working at this level, for lack of, just a better way to explain it, right? You have to have your financial house in order and you have to have certain things in place. And you're not going to win those bids if you don't have that already established. So like you were saying, access to capital. Why do you need that? If you're going to go from 5 employees to 100 employees, you're going to need access to capital because you don't know how many days before you can invoice for those 100 additional employees to when you'll actually get paid. You've got to be able to run your business and operate. You need cash flow. There's just so many layers that I think the business owners, yes, it's super exciting that these opportunities are out there and, could change the course of a business from, the growth could be really, really tremendous. But you have to have some of these pieces in place, like what you're talking about, Jean, and also just understanding what are they going to come in and look at? Are you going to get my financial statements? Are they going to be reviewed? Yep, they sure are. And you're going to have to be able to explain, the decisions and the choices and the ways that you're allocating your resources so that they, like you said, risk adverse, right? They don't want to award somebody a contract and then be concerned that they're not going to be able to maintain that level of business or fulfill, whether it's purchasing plant or equipment or, other things like that to fulfill the contract. So I think those are all really, really super valuable pieces of information to share. What are some of the other things that they're looking at as far as like having your house in order so that some of these businesses can move forward with this?
I think, the entrepreneur's job, right? Because we all think of ourselves as the person who's doing the work. And so again, if I was to coach myself 30 years ago, I would be smart about identifying the right resources. And I would invest, instead of just going after contracts, I would have taken the time to invest in a relationship that could help me realize my vision. Because I created a business plan. I was like, oh, I want to go here, but I didn't know what I didn't know. And as an example of that, I'll share with you all. When I first got started, even in the consulting space, even after having this really large, company, it never occurred to me that I needed a financial advisor or, a company similar to yours, like a fractional CFO, because I was still focused on, am I making enough money? Do I have cash in the bank? So I learned some things, but today my life is completely changed because my financial team is part of my monthly conversation. And it's about how much money am I keeping? Who's paying me? It's about financial ratios. It's about key metrics. And it has enabled me to build wealth within my own company, because I remember a time when I first started, I was struggling. I was struggling because I was just always looking at, well, am I profitable? Well, I was profitable, but I had no money. And so I was always living hand to mouth because I did not have the right support. My life has totally changed today, where what we're looking at, conversations I'm having now, is what are we putting into our profit sharing? Where else are we investing? How can we, invest more money in the company to attract the best employees? And we share, by the way. So I'm not just talking about putting money in my own pocket. I am serious about building wealth for myself and my community. So our company now has profit sharing. We're not in, and the government contracting space, the corporate space hasn't changed, but we have changed and evolved as a result of investing in this business foundation. And I will tell you that it's more than just having a bookkeeper. I remember, again, in my struggle days, I had a bookkeeper. I was audited by the IRS. And, and I remember the auditor saying to, I actually brought my bookkeeper in at the time, and they were just looking at me like, listen, there were mistakes made with my house, if you will. And I turned to my bookkeeper, and the auditor turned to me and said, it's your responsibility.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was looking to blame her. I'm like, hey, what's going on? How come you didn't tell me this? None of that. As a CEO, it's your responsibility. And so you definitely, for any, business that's poisoned itself for growth, you need more than a bookkeeper.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think that's a conversation that we get into a lot with, potential clients, and just anytime we're doing educational pieces for our community and other communities. It's that, the bookkeeper is great at recording transactions, but they're not a forward thinker. They're not strategically looking at things, and they're usually not trained to catch, as the business evolves and it grows and changes, your processes, your procedures have to evolve and change with those. So you need a bookkeeper, absolutely 100%. But as you reach that $1 million mark and above, 7, 8, 9 figures, you really have to look at who's the next layer, the next level of financial expertise that I need to bring in. So that's looking like a fractional CFO, your tax strategist, your tax preparer, your insurance broker. You're looking at a financial advisor that's helping to understand on the personal side, how is this asset that your business is creating wealth? How are you investing it and creating more returns on the personal side? Insurance is a really big one, because now you probably have employees and you're offering them insurance, and you're, different, the 401k. And so your house of professionals has to grow in accordance with your revenue, so that you're able to be proactive, right, instead of reactive. And like you said, that's a perfect example of kind of looking at your bookkeeper, and your bookkeeper shrugs her shoulders like, I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah. And so these are all the building blocks, right, that as you're going to be scaling and growing your business, you need to be thinking about them. And yes,
all the great stuff that Gina's is talking about and introducing here opportunity-wise is a piece of that you can add as a revenue stream, right, into your business. But it's going to take some preparation and some well thought out projections so that you can say, how much additional capital am I going to need if I go after these contracts? Or how much additional, your team is going to grow, your infrastructure is going to grow as well. So really great info, Gina. I think it's really exciting. Number one, that there's opportunity out there. And I think it's really exciting too that it's still, I don't know how many people have heard of the $1 billion roundtable. I don't know how many people are having these kinds of conversations to even know what's possible as far as options to help scale businesses and things like that. So what are some of the other things that you help your clients to assess where you're at and then layer in these other opportunities onto their existing operations?
So my business now is a full service management consulting firm. So we're doing capacity building, and capacity building is important, for any entrepreneur that's thinking about getting into this space. Because as you pointed out, if you're growing a $500,000 consulting practice and you are looking to expand, whether you're in construction or you really need to know and understand how that works. So my firm provides management consulting, we provide capacity building training, and we also do administrative and supportive services. Anything from, marketing support and other types of support so that we can help those businesses get from where they are to where they need to be. Because similar to like a fractional CFO, we're kind of like a fractional back office, and it works because it works because we know the government space and the corporate space very, very well. Mm-hmm. My personal journey right now is focused on working with people individually to help them make these connections when they're ready. So a lot of my practice right now is focused on helping folks make these connections and having conversations with them and connecting them to the people they need, to get ready. Because I no longer believe it's sustainable to just kind of go into the marketplace and say, oh, I want to do business with corporations. Mm-hmm. We need to support that. A lot of my private clients are large corporations, right? And government agencies who are looking to make these connections. So I am in the room sitting with them side by side to, number one, help them make connections, but also to assess how they're doing business so that they can also adapt. Because I say this all the time in the supplier diversity space, there haven't been any significant changes in over 4 decades. Corporations want to do business with small minority women, veterans, but their processes need to adapt, especially now with the technology that's available and the abundance of resources. Things need to change. So my focus right now is in that space to really be an agent for change and a connector.
I love that. So you're the one that's kind of the mediator, right? You've got these corporations and governments that are saying, I'm making the commitment to earmark X number of dollars to work with these types of suppliers. And are they struggling to find people that kind of check the box for all the different components that they're looking for?
I'm going to say yes and no, because there's kind of two sides to that story. And there's a lot of market research that a corporation must do before they take on and say, oh, I'm going to earmark X amount of dollars for diverse suppliers. I literally had this conversation with a colleague of mine who you've met, we were just talking about how identifying diverse suppliers in different markets can be different. It's different in New York City than it is in California, than it is in Florida. It's just different. So that's that piece of it. But there is a gap between what corporations are trying to do, because I think a lot of them are well-intentioned and they want to increase opportunities. We, as a collective, need to be ready, and so, there's opportunities. You don't have to grow your business to the multi 7, 8 figures. There's opportunities for everyone. But a lot of times, even in, when I'm trying to make connections, what I'm finding is that companies really do need to be prepared. Like as we started this conversation, you have to have your foundation in order, which does include your financial back office, your reporting, your processes for, accepting and receiving payments. There's a compliance component to this work as well, which, as you're growing, you have to make sure that not only are you doing the work, but that you're doing it in a way that meets regulatory compliance for your state, your employees. I mean, there's just multifaceted. So I go back to what I said in the beginning. If you could dream, that's my job. That's your job, right? As the entrepreneur, dream big, and then go out there in your network and identify the people that you almost like building a board of directors. Like, okay, who is that person or that company that I need to bring on board that's going to be responsible for guiding me on the financial side? Mm-hmm. Who is that company and or person that's going to be responsible for guiding me on the business development side? And I can almost hear people saying, well, who has money for all that? But I will tell you, when I look at the model, I'm working with a very large company right now. They never sit around and they say, oh, like, how are we going to get the money for this? They formulate a plan and then they go to the marketplace and they get the money.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. There is a lot of money out there for, if you're going to a lender, you're going to get a line of credit, whatever that funding looks like. If you've got a purpose for that and you can show the return on the investment, they're going to lend to you, right? Of course, you have to have, some of the other components in place, the ability to pay and the credit and the things to guarantee it. But if you have a business plan, like what Jean's saying, right, go out and dream and then put the pen and paper down, together and say, here's what it actually is going to look like. Here's how I'm going to utilize these funds. Here is the opportunities that I'm going to be throwing my hat in the ring for. And then here's what that return on investment is going to look like. And that is going to be something that helps you to secure those funds so that you can facilitate these contracts and work with these types of clients in your business.
I'll tell you one more little secret sauce that I am now, this is how I'm doing business for the next, I have my, I'm at the age now where I'm thinking about what my next 10 years look like. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I am finding is, I don't want to say easy, but strategic alliances, because, there might be people on this call or listening to this podcast thinking, wow, they are talking about pie in the sky. And that is, it couldn't be further from the truth. Number one, you can partner with a large company, a non-minority firm. There's so many of these partnerships happening right now where non-minority firms or non-diverse firms, large companies, are looking to gain access to market share that is earmarked for small businesses. And so they're forming strategic alliances and partnerships with smaller businesses. And that could be a joint venture, it could be a subcontracting agreement, but that allows you to grow sustainably while leveraging the expertise of a larger entity. There's plenty, like right now, I think I have multiple active partnerships going with people who I am just excited about building, an ecosystem where we're supporting each other. And instead of me having to say, oh, well, I'm going to go out to California. Well, why would I do that when I have a perfectly capable partner in California that mm-hmm. I could say, hey, are you interested in working with us to deliver services? Or are you interested in partnering with us to ensure that my back office meets the standard for doing business? Mm-hmm. And that doesn't take a lot. It takes, it's about widening the lens and thinking creatively, because there are more opportunities than there are people to fulfill them. A lot of people think, oh, there's all this competition. No, I have clients who are not able to meet their supplier diversity goals because they can't get the right people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the right businesses to fill those. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think we can talk all day about this because there's so many little rabbit holes to go down to of just a ton of information, and you're a wealth of experience and knowledge. And so what we're going to do is put together a webinar that will go deeper into some of these areas. So for anybody who's listening who wants to learn more about, putting together those foundational components of your business so that you can go and pursue, these other revenue streams. Jean and I will be doing that, and you'll be able to get some more information about that. Jean, what else do you want to say about the webinar that, who's the ideal listener and all that good stuff?
So the ideal listener is, what we've decided to do with your team, Andrea, is to separate professional services from construction. So that's step one, because the path to success, even with your foundational back office and to get contracts, are different. So the first webinar that we're going to be hosting is for professional services. So that's your, it could be architects, engineers, your coaches, those types of individuals. We'll share information about the types of opportunities, and then we're really going to dive into what is the expectation from the corporate side in terms of what it is that you're going to need to have in terms of reports and how you can prepare yourself for growth in that sector. We'll do the same thing on the construction side. Construction involves risks, insurance, bonding. So we'll talk about different nuances. We're targeting, this is a good conversation, quite frankly, for anyone, but where I am seeing a real gap in the professional services side is, businesses from like 1 to 5 million is there's enormous opportunities, but yet we're finding that those businesses are really having challenges, closing and sustaining the relationships with corporate. Certainly, if you're under the 1 million, you could certainly listen in. There's plenty of opportunities. But right there, when you're going from that 1 to 5, there's certain expectations that a corporation is going to want to see. And on the construction side, as we know, companies can generate significant revenues. So we're going to be talking about risk, bonding. It's not so much about revenue there, because, again, most construction people that are involved in construction are already in the multi 6 and 7 figures. I'm sorry, multi 7 and 8 figures.
Yep. Perfect. So if this sounds like anything you guys are interested in attending, we'll have all the information in the show notes, and you can sign up to get the notifications of when that will be happening. And Jean, I'm so excited. I just think that anytime we can bring value like this to our community and to our listeners, and it's a win-win, right? You've got somebody that needs it over here and has the money to spend, and somebody that needs it over here and wants to deliver that service and grow their business. And, just the benefits that that everybody gets to experience from that is just tremendous. And so thank you for bringing your expertise and your experience to our listeners and our community. And yeah, I'm just really grateful for your time today.
Same here. And thank you for creating this opportunity for people to learn about how to prepare and gain access. I think the opportunities are only going to get bigger. And so that's something else that we'll share on the upcoming webinars, more details about where the opportunities are, how you can find them, so that this kind of all comes together for folks. So thank you, Andrea, for having me. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and review, and we'll catch you on the next episode. If you're looking for more content or resources in the meantime, check out our website for information, blogs, and our I've Got a Spreadsheet for That series. That's thecashflowcfo.com. Again, thecashflowcfo.com. We can't wait to hear from you.